Good afternoon. I am Trinace Riggs, School Board Chair, and the administrative, informal, and workshop session of this meeting of the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia, is hereby convened at 4:14 p.m. on this 28th day of November 2023. Members of the public will be able to observe the school board meeting through live streaming on schoolboard.vbschools.com/meeting/live, broadcast on VBTV Channel 47 and on Zoom. Thank you to those that have joined us in person and online. Madam Clerk, will you please announce those school board members in attendance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Present in the school board chamber is Chair Riggs, Vice Chair Weems, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Brown, Mr. Callen, Mr. Culpepper, Ms. Franklin, Ms. Manning, Ms. Melnick, and Ms. Owens.
And Miss Martin is at Norfolk Journal with her husband, who is in surgery. So we're going to begin with A, School Board Administrative Matters and Reports. Do any school board members have anything to report? Okay, I do. So I'm going to start with, this is for Dr. Robertson. Over the past few years, the board has approved of the superintendent's recommendation to grant additional leave days for 12-month employees over the holiday break to be in line with surrounding divisions. For example, 12-month employees and CPS staff are out December 22nd, through January 1st. Suffolk is off on December 21st through January 1st. But Norfolk does work December 26th through 29th currently. Our 12-month employees would be expected to work 12/27 through 12/29 or take leave. Policy 4-88.E2 grants the superintendent the authority to do this. Would the school board consider making 12/27 to 12/29 to be part of the holiday break for our 12-month employees? If possible, we'd like to know this so we can let the employees know by December 1st, so they can plan accordingly. Do I have any conversation about that?
Do we need a motion later on? Later
Yeah,
on?
I'm just,
Yes, Miss Manning.
all right, so shouldn't this be a topic on our agenda if we're going to vote on it?
Yeah,
Well,
you don't need to vote on
we
it.
don't need to vote on it.
I wanted to run it by the chair and vice chair because it's something
Oh,
we've
I
done
thought
the
this was
last few
something
years.
she was asking you. I didn't
No.
realize that was
Mm-mm.
something you were,
No,
okay.
it's something we've done like the last 3 years to be in line with the leave of other local divisions and policy it allows the superintendent to make that decision, but I wanted to bring it to the chair and vice chair first to run that by him and give him some information, and we thought it was a good idea to share it with the group as an FYI.
Oh, so FYI, you've made the decision to do that? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Oh, okay, well, that's not what I heard, so thank you.
I'm sorry. Miss Owens.
I was just curious if there is a reason why, if we're doing it the last 3 years, we haven't put that in the calendar instead of having to, surprise, we gave you days off, when we could just put it in the calendar if they don't need to work it.
Good suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Okay, Miss Weems?
Yes, I know many of us attended the VSBA conference, and I took some great notes, and we've kind of talked amongst ourselves. But if anybody has some great information that they got from their conference, if you could just maybe email it to the whole group. I attended one on collective bargaining, and it was very eye-opening to hear the other school divisions, the trauma they've gone through in that whole process. So I'm going to share extensive notes on that. So I think that might be a good idea if we could do that, Chair Riggs, just kind of get it out to everybody.
Thank you. I think we all took notes on it. And we can share it either now, but I think now we're just prolonging, we've lost some minutes here. But also, we could share it at a different time. Miss Miller. Okay. I did want to thank, and I was going to bring that up, I wanted to thank all of the school board members that were able to attend, and that was Ms. Anderson, Ms. Brown, Mr. Callen, Mr. Culpepper, Ms. Franklin, who attended virtually, Ms. Melnick, Ms. Weems, who joined me, and we all were able to attend that conference in Williamsburg, and it was 2 weeks ago. Okay? Another thing is the superintendent search process update. As a reminder to my colleagues and the public input portion of our superintendent search has ended. At our December 12th meeting, we will have a closed session to meet with HYA. That will start at 2 o'clock. Our superintendent search consulting firm to review the applicants for the superintendent position and to develop the interview process for our January 5th and 6th and 8th, 9th, and 10th, 2024 interviews of the candidates. The candidate interviews in January or later if is needed will be conducted in a closed session and will take place in the city of Virginia Beach. When the school board, or in the city of Virginia, when the school board chooses a candidate, the school board will vote in open session on its choice for the next superintendent. Okay?
Sorry, could you just repeat, on December 12th, you said we're going to meet at 12 o'clock?
No.
2 o'clock?
At 2 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
At 2 o'clock. HYA asked because of their flights. Okay. Everybody have those dates down, okay? All right, thank you. All right, so facilities update, welcome, Ms. Melissa Ingram, our Executive Director for Facilities Services, and Mr. Jack Freeman, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'll start. So good afternoon, Chair Riggs, Vice Chair Weems, members of the board, and Dr. Robertson. This is an annual brief that we provide you during the fall. I just want to make sure we got all our stuff going. And it historically has been focused on new construction, like when we replace entire school buildings. We have 3 such projects in our current CIP, Prince Anne High School, Williams and Bayside 6, and Bayside High School. Projects like that typically have been funded with about half of the annual CIP funding. The other half of the annual CIP funding goes to the rest of the major projects in the CIP, like roof and HVAC replacements, foundation work, and other major projects like fire suppressant replacements. And those are the projects we'll focus on today. When we brief you, we want the data to tell the story, and that's the approach that we took last year. We let the data tell the story, and at the time, our funding levels and historical distribution only supported upgrading about 25% of our HVAC systems needing replacement, 50% of our roof replacements, and 48% of our known foundation work. We didn't receive any questions or comments. And following that brief, we went through the budget cycle and it was clear that using data to tell the story wasn't enough. So based on that, we're going to share the CIP story a little bit differently this year. And we frequently use nautical themes in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, so let's go with that. Our ship is sinking. The CIP ship is sinking. We are sinking because we're taking on more water than we can bail overboard. And we have accumulated a lot of water over the past decade and a half. That water is flowing into our ship represents the cost of all the work needed to be accomplished in the CIP. New construction, HVAC and roof replacements, foundation repairs, and a host of other items that Ms. Ingram is going to cover with you shortly. The amount of water that we're taking on increases every year, equivalent to inflation. In this slide, you can see projections of inflation for the next 6 years. Every year we experience inflation without a corresponding funding increase means we accomplish less. We have less buying power. In any one year, that number may not seem that big. It's the compounding effect of inflation that's problematic. This chart represents the funding needed to keep our buying power level against projected inflation. So that just means not making it better, just keeping it level from today. And I'm not saying that level buying power is enough, but it would be a useful and welcome starting point and much better than our current conditions. Using this as a starting point, you can see that it takes an additional 4.5 to 5.5 million additional dollars annually every year over the 6-year CIP just to maintain the current buying power. You can see that by year 6, we would need $20 million more than year 1 to accomplish the same amount of work. The cumulative loss of buying power over the 6-year CIP is on the order of $70 million. You get that by adding the deficits from years 2 through 6. $70 million loss of buying power over just 6 years. This is our problem. But it's only a small part of the problem. The larger part of the problem is that we have lost buying power every year since roughly 2009. We've analyzed the loss of buying power since 2009, and we intended to show that to you today. However, the number we calculated is staggering. And it's so staggering that we're going to verify the accuracy of our calculations before we show that to you. So we're going to triple check the number, and we're going to get some outside help to ensure that when we share that number with you, that it's solid. But we did include, so I'm going back to the previous slide, the last 3 years of inflation on this slide. So inflation rates that you see in the future are projected rates for new construction in the state of Virginia done by an external expert. The number from the last 3 years are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and are actual inflation rates for school new construction at the national level over the last 3 years. And you can look at the last 2 years. Those 2 years have a huge impact. But really, it's the compounding of inflation since 2009 that continues to play the larger role. But those numbers are big. And I want to emphasize that this is national data for those, for what you see in orange there. Our state numbers will vary a little bit from that. I'm just saying that from a transparency standpoint so that you understand the numbers. So we're going to triple check the numbers related to the loss in buying power since 2009 and share that with you at the next brief on January 9th. This slide shows funding sources in the approved CIP. $62.8 million for this year, and you can see the totals are essentially level over the years. Looking at the bottom row, so just above the total line, you can see $11 million in reversion funding is pre-programmed as one source of funding. And when City Council approved our reversion request last Tuesday, $11 million was included in that. In addition to that $11 million, we also received $7.9 million in reversion CIP funding for some priority projects. That's an example of staff continuing to work to mitigate problems associated with the loss in buying power. And Ms. Ingram will share other ways that staff is trying to minimize the challenge through grant processes. The larger point is that level funding that does not account for inflation is not a plan for success. We will keep sinking. The ship cannot stop sinking solely focused on how staff is bailing the water as we've done in the past. We need discussion and action to stop the increasing rates of water flowing into our ship. We need advocacy and action related to improving funding. I hope that this information helped you better understand the problem. I know it's heavy. I know it's big. I'm confident that we can overcome it with small steps moving forward to make adjustments. We'll give you more information in the January brief to help build a picture. With that, I'd like to turn the remainder of the brief over to Ms. Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Good afternoon, School Board Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Robertson. I'm looking forward to discussing with you today just a snapshot of what we're working on in facilities and need to continue working on related to the Capital Improvement Program, or the CIP. So again, this slide shows the school division's approved funding sources for the Capital Improvement Program adopted for this current fiscal year, 23-24. The funding sources for the CIP include a variety of funding, including bond sources such as charter bonds, which you can see, public facility revenue bonds, and bonds for energy performance contracting. These are all debt-related funding sources. Additional funding sources such as PAYGO and school special reserve fund balance or reversion funding have also been built into the CIP in order to reduce the reliance on debt for both the school division's new construction needs and larger replacement project needs, such as roof replacements. This approved funding source information, referred to as Alternative A, reflects the incorporation of reversion funding, as Mr. Freeman just described, that was awaiting approval during the fiscal year 23-24 budget season and was approved in February 21st, 2023. As Mr. Freeman mentioned, you can see in the total, the funding for the CIP remains relatively flat. Our office works with budget development in order to look for opportunities to supplement this funding with appropriations from state construction grants that were available in fiscal year 23, unfortunately not again offered for fiscal year 24. We continue to work in unison to apply for grant funding from a variety of sources. In terms of grants, we have recently applied to Virginia DOE for the School Construction Assistant Program, or SCAP, for new school construction needs. As you'll see throughout the presentation, we continue to work with previous grants applied for and awarded, such as the ESSER grant funding and the Coronavirus Fiscal Recovery Funding, or CSL FRF funding. Our budget office has also been working with city staff to capture reversion funding, which we have available as an option to put into the CIP due to fiscally conservative planning throughout our operating budget process. The planned appropriations through reversion funding for fiscal year 25 was approved by school board and city council just this past month. So again, as a reminder, the intent of the capital improvement program is to address all needs throughout the school division for our facilities. Listed are the major CIP projects dealing with facilities renovation and replacement projects, total of $36 million approved for this fiscal year 23-24, and $195.7 million planned over the 6-year CIP. This encompasses several projects including roofing, HVAC, grounds, energy management, and a variety of renovations and replacement projects. As with tennis and grounds and renovations and replacements, we work with the city, Parks and Recreation, on our school playground equipment replacements as well. In terms of our new construction, $26.8 million for this fiscal year, 23-24, was approved. $177.6 million planned over the 6-year CIP. An Achievable Dream Academy at Lynn Haven Middle School, a $14.25 million project, opened this fall 2023 to welcome the growing high school population, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, with the first class of VBCPS Achievable Dream students reaching 12th grade next year. And with improvements also having been made to the front of the school, as well as in the interior commons area adjacent to the addition. Also programmed in the school division's 3 school replacement projects, which includes Princess Anne High School replacement, Betty F. Williams Bayside 6th grade replacement, and Bayside High School replacement. As we've discussed with the board in several briefs, we have been looking for the most cost-effective way of delivering these 3 schools, which would be on average roughly 75 years of age when replaced. And we are currently working through a PPEA interim agreement process for design services, with the school board and city council having been briefed this month on the 30% design development. So again, looking at the 6-year CIP funding, you can see our total funding in the dark blue for $373.3 million over the 6-year plan, with maintenance projects comprising 52% of the total funding, this year approved for $36 million, and $195.7 million over the 6-year CIP for new construction projects comprising 47.6% of the total funding. This year approved for $26.8 million for new construction and $177.6 million over the 6-year CIP. So as mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, our new construction for whole school replacement projects is an important component of our CIP planning, especially as our buildings continue to age. Just as important are the renovation and replacement projects that address building systems in our over 90 facilities, 11 million square feet of space, and 1,900 acres of property that serve roughly 65,000 students within the school division. Our number one priority in maintaining our assets is ensuring that our classroom and educational environment are safe and effective for the needs of our students and staff. We are working to keep up with our assets based on their life cycle, and we'll look at 3 areas with you today: HVAC, roofing, and from our various project foundations. This graph shows a breakdown of these projects, with HVAC being the largest funding project, $73.4 million over 6 years, and the largest need for the division. With roofing following that at $48.9 million, and then various at $23.5 million, which encompasses several needs for the division, from foundation repairs to ADA or American with Disability Acts improvements, bleacher replacements, fire suppression and system replacements, to name a few, that help support the life safety and curriculum environment for our students and staff. So in our next several slides, we'll be looking a little bit closer at these 3 CIP funding sources as it relates to the life cycle replacement needs and 6-year funding for the CIP. Our first renovations and replacements project, HVAC CIP 1-018, is geared towards maintaining various HVAC components throughout our facilities, from HVAC distribution, makeup air unit that improves indoor air quality, and systems control, to name a few. Looking at maintaining our HVAC systems at their average 20-year life cycle for our systems, it is estimated that we would have to replace roughly 50 buildings throughout the 6-year replacement program, addressing roughly 8 buildings a fiscal year. The estimated budget cost for 50 projects would be within a range of roughly $294 million to $490 million over 6 years, using current year dollar values without escalation. Approved CIP funding over the next 6 years from 22-23 is $73.4 million. In addition to the funding appropriated in the 6-year CIP, our school division continues to apply for grant funding opportunities and capture any reversion funding, which is a result of fiscally conservative planning through our budget processes. Considering these funding sources, of which $9.2 million of reversion is included in the year 1 funding above, and $5 million approved this month, our total funding for 6-year planning is $91.5 million for HVAC needs. In determining the needs over the next 6 years CIP, we consider HVAC system conditions which are related to the age of the system as well as the condition of the system. You can see that over half of our HVAC systems are considered either unsatisfactory or fair, with the remaining half either adequate or optimum, meaning newly replaced systems. Unsatisfactory systems run the threat of failure with limited resources and ability for maintenance staff to be able to adequately repair systems and a larger failure rate. This requires additional operating funds in order to maintain these aging systems throughout our buildings. In summary, for HVAC, CIP 1-018, we are projected to be funding, again, $73.4 million over the 6-year CIP, and increasing that to $91.5 million, considering the CIP funding, grants, and reversion. This total 6-year funding of $91.5 million is roughly 18.7% of the lowest range of asset needs and roughly 31.1% of our highest range of asset needs, in order to keep up with our life cycle replacements of HVAC systems, which we haven't been able to do due to our funding stream. The addition of grant funding and reversion funding account for almost 20% of the funding for the total 6-year planning. This next slide shows a list of prioritized HVAC projects that are being planned for over the next 6 years, which is one of the benefits of the CIP process, the ability to work on these projects over several years, which is necessary for scoping, design, bidding, and construction needed to complete these projects. The first 5 projects identified are currently under construction or have been bid and going through submittals for construction, with First Colonial High School HVAC replacement approved by the board at your last meeting. The first 6 projects utilize grant funding opportunities along with a CIP match in order to complete these projects. 9 projects are going through a study or design phase right now, including the Advanced Technology Center cost participation with the city and ATC for a chiller replacement. Various cost-sharing opportunities with the operating fund in order to leverage CIP's funds to replace these unsatisfactory systems are also listed. And kitchen HVAC projects that will install HVAC system into some of our 30 kitchens that currently do not have HVAC systems in place for these important spaces that serve the entire school daily and have staff implications. Not all of these projects under design will be able to have construction started with the use of 6-year funding approved alone. But they are undergoing design in order for us to be able to capture any grant funding or reversion funding opportunities that may come our way in the future, with the remaining schools in their planning phases for these larger replacement projects. So looking at our next CIP project, re-roofing, CIP 1-019, this considered life cycles of our roofs at an average age of 25 years, meaning we would want to be replacing roughly 22 building roofs over the 6-year CIP planning period. This would equate to roughly, and you've received an update on this, 77 million to 88 million in budget needs, using current year dollar values without escalation. You can see that the approved CIP funding over the next 6 years is $48.85 million for our 6-year replacement needs, estimated to keep up with life cycle replacement needs for over 90 facilities. Again, the school division continues to apply for grant funding, and we have completed some ESSER projects related to roofing over our last 2 fiscal years, which helped us to extend the life of roofs receiving funding from these grants. We also continue to leverage reversion funding included in appropriations for this current fiscal year. So looking at our roof system conditions, roughly a quarter of our roofs are either in unsatisfactory condition unsatisfactory condition or fair condition, with about another quarter of our roofs in optimum condition, meaning they have recently been replaced and are at their earlier years of the life cycle. And half of our roofs, which again continue to age, are within adequate condition. Again, a condition of unsatisfactory means that it is difficult for maintenance staff to be able to make repairs to these roof systems, either due to the age of the system or the deterioration of the roofing materials to a point where it's difficult to patch or keep up with patching needs and these roofs as they age. So in summary for re-roofing, over the 6-year CIP, $48.9 million of CIP appropriations is planned, which was supplemented with past reversion funding. This $48.9 million appropriated equates to a range of 55.2% of our lowest range of asset needs and roughly 63.1% of the highest range of asset needs, necessary to keep up with our life cycle replacement of our over 90 buildings. As grant funding opportunities become available, staff will continue to work with our Budget Development Office in securing grant opportunities that may be able to help address our building envelopes. So prioritizing roofing projects within the 6-year CIP planning cycle with the funding level appropriated, and again remembering that we are working through projects at several phases of their replacement cycle due to the multi-year planning and construction needs of these large projects. We're able to plan for 17 projects, and in addition, cost participation at the Advanced Technology Center for their roof as well that would need to be addressed to keep up with their life cycle replacement needs. With a lesser degree of availability than HVAC, we continue to look for these grant opportunities as they become available, with roofs being designed to capture any funding opportunities that may become available in the future through either grants or reversion. It's important to note, as part of the conversation, we have several prototype buildings that were built to address our growth, and they're coming near to the end of their life cycles, or double their life cycles. At the elementary school level alone, 7 prototypes built roughly 25 years ago, and 11 built roughly 44 years ago, needing their first and second roof replacements. Our talented maintenance staff have been upkeeping these assets in order to reach their full life cycle, as well as to extend their life cycles. So one of our more important CIP projects in terms of our system assets is the CIP 1-020, or Various. We have numerous project types that are able to be addressed through the CIP project funding code, including one that I'll be talking about on the next slide, foundation repairs. Along with fire alarm and fire suppression systems, ADA improvements, replacement and repairs for a variety of various systems that support the life safety and learning environments of our schools. In terms of keeping up with our asset life cycles, which range from 15 to 50 years, depending on the project type of the various assets, relying on this funding source for replacement at the pace of roughly 1 project per asset a year, budget needs would range from roughly $75 million to $97 million in current year dollar values without escalation. This funding source is responsible for nearly all the projects, and in the 6-year plan to be funded with $23.5 million in appropriations. Also considering grants and reversion funding when possible, an available $2.6 million is included in the above appropriations, and an additional $2.9 million in reversion just approved by school board and city council this last month, brings our total 6-year funding to $26.4 million in order to keep up with these various systems life cycle replacements. So with our buildings continuing to age, our maintenance services team worked to adequately assess our buildings. With these assessments, some of our facilities foundations have been further studied to look at any possible repairs needed. 3 facilities were identified to have foundation repair needs, which is not unusual in our area with high water tables and hydrostatic pressure. Any foundation repairs work would ensure that we are keeping moisture away from our buildings and away from our foundations. We've completed a successful project at Brandon Middle School in the 2016-17 school year, which had a budget of roughly $600,000. Costs associated with these repairs are estimated to have escalated to over $3 million a building and will take various phases of work to complete. So in summary, our various CIP 1-020 has total 6-year appropriations of $23.5 million, with added reversion funding bringing that total to $26.4 million. This is roughly 27.2% to 35.2% of our 6-year estimated needs for replacements that utilize this funding source. Of the 3 foundation repairs being studied, we have an estimated budget of $9.4 million for renovations, which is roughly 35.6% of the total appropriations planned over the next 6 years. So in closing, the capital improvement program is designed to address all the needs of our facilities throughout the division, as you can see from the list of projects we've just reviewed. We have discussed some of our most critical needs that need to be addressed in order to keep up with the health and safety of our aging buildings. While planning for new construction of full school replacement projects is important, it is equally as important to address these replacement needs of building systems based on their life cycles in our over 90 buildings. We will continue to work with our budget office during this budget development cycle, as well as continue to look for grant opportunities with return on investment opportunities as well, in order to look for ways to address our funding needs. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of our amazing staff in facility services for their expertise, attention, and care given to our buildings. From custodial services, who is our first line of defense in maintaining our buildings, to our maintenance services staff, who work daily to upkeep all of our building systems, and through effective maintenance, help our division utilize our assets to their full life cycle and beyond. And to our facility services staff, who support the years of planning and construction needed to execute our large replacement projects that we have been discussing. Together, our goal is to support a safe and effective learning environments for our students. And with this, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Ms. Melnick.
Well, if you were feeling good about anything, you sucked that right out of the room. So, to quote Tony Arnold, he used to say, well, folks, we have a problem. And he used to say that a lot. He reminded us that we lived at sea level. He reminded us about the foundation repairs that were necessary, the roof repairs. I wish I remembered how many square feet we have.
11 million.
11 million square feet is a lot to take care of. I know as I listened to you and looked at this report that even just telephone systems, things you don't think about. So as a small business owner, I just got a discount, 12 phones, 6 lines, $10,000, one small business. So those are just things we don't think about. One of the things I see on here is asbestos. Do we have any asbestos abatements that need to take place right now or in the summer?
Absolutely. So we have our assistant director in maintenance services of our environmental systems. And we look at asbestos in terms of our existing buildings. And then whenever we do renovation or replacement projects, we do have a system in place where we work through the maintenance services office as well as with the third party to make sure that any materials such as asbestos or other materials such as PCBs, lead in drinking water, things like that, to make sure that we are ensuring that our schools are safe for students, both during their use and then during any renovations or replacements that need to take place.
Okay. So on a larger scale, as the board knows, there was just a JLARC study that talked about, a very lengthy JLARC study that talked about K-12 funding. And it was a scathing report. We are woefully behind in funding K-12 education, which also includes CIP, I'm sure. It includes the CIP piece. And so I know that's not going to happen overnight, and I hope this study doesn't need any more time to be studied. But, you know, there's culpability at the state level, and that's just not trickling down to these localities. And we're lucky that we share half of city council's budget, but clearly it's not enough. And so my hope is that that report kind of gets the ball moving in our funding. And so I will yield to other questions. There's a long list. So.
Thank you, Ms. Melnick. Ms. Franklin.
Well, Mr. Freeman, way to get a retired sailor's attention to say the ship is sinking. So, one of the questions I have, and I know that that we are going to actually have Joel coming to speak at 6 o'clock, but what is the potential of getting some of the state construction grants renewed? Do we have any information on that in terms of?
And I'll let other experts kick into this where it required. We're going to pursue all opportunities. And
Well, of
the
course.
sense that we're getting is that there's going to be a shift towards grant processes related to this. The important thing to remember related to those is that in the near term, Virginia Beach City Public Schools doesn't compete well the way they define the grants.
Can you explain that?
Yes. So frequently, and help me to make sure I get the language right, it's rural areas,
Oh.
tribal communities, other areas that on paper look different than Virginia Beach City Public Schools does. They will rise to the top of the list. Where Virginia Beach City Public Schools and others are really well positioned is we can execute. If we ever get an opportunity at it, we can execute it. And so what I mean by in the near term, those divisions will be prioritized. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I've seen it happen in other places where when money can't be executed in one place, the other places that are ready to go, that can execute it, years down the line may see the benefit from the money that can't be spent by those other school divisions. So that's one of the things that we've been thinking through and talking through. But what it really means is in the near term, We're going to continue to apply, and we're going to put our best foot forward, but we know that that's in a challenging environment as we compare to other school divisions.
Okay, well, thank you. And then, you know, I've got to tell you, just the current technical center just constantly amaze me. And I know that we have, you know, RFQ requirements and all that stuff, but I do have a question about, do we have the opportunity to use, I mean, I know that we have HVAC there at the CTA. We've got, you know, construction. We've got all of those students that are there learning. Do we have an opportunity to give them hands-on experience? By chance?
So this is, do you want to take a shot? So this is Mr. Eric Woodhouse. He is our Director for
Hello, Mr. Woodhouse.
Maintenance Services. He is here because when we have these new construction and replacement challenges, it's his team that's maintaining those systems
Thank
in
you.
the meantime. And we've had a lot of conversations about how we connect our students
Mm-hmm.
and the learning with the work that we're doing. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Woodhouse.
Good afternoon. How you doing? I don't know if you remember, but the brief a couple months ago when I shared what we've done over the past summer with maintenance services, it included 6 of the students from the tech center
Oh,
working
good.
with us over the summer.
I'm sorry, I did
in
not
all
know
the
that.
various trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, in a capacity where we're mentoring them. They have hands-on experience with all the different trades. So we're going to do that every year. So that's a partnership with the tech center that hopefully down the road will benefit us by students coming to work for Virginia Beach City Public Schools.
Well, I just see that as a win-win situation too. So I'm good. Thank you for reminding us that we're already doing that. Thanks.
Okay, just want to remind everybody, I want you to keep your eye on that clock, and we have 2 more presentations for the workshop. One of them we can bring over, change. But think about your questions, and they are going to be coming back in January with more, so just want to let you know, okay? Ms. Manning?
Thank you. So I just looked at some numbers, and since 2010, we've had a 10% reduction in enrollment, of student enrollment. And it's projected to continue to decline. From what I don't have the Building Utilization Committee report in front of me, but from what I recall, we have a number of schools that are well under capacity, specifically elementary schools that are at least 25% under capacity. Do we have any recent reports on the capacity situation, and have we looked at consolidation?
So yes, we actually have a BUC meeting coming up next week, December 8th, where we're going to review those numbers. And we're going to come back with more numbers related to what really has occurred since our peak enrollment back in 1999 and beyond, because the way that it's often shared is as if there was a peak enrollment and nothing has been done to reduce our inventory over that period of time. So we want to make sure that we're telling the story accurately about what has occurred between that peak enrollment and what has occurred related to the inventory and what's occurred related to programs that exist in the schools during that period of time, so that we're sharing what an accurate story is. So there's that piece. Related to the BUC, there are a number of things related to that we're going to look at. It feels premature to talk about it in this group without having gone through the BUC to discuss it. One thing to be aware of is, as it relates to, I think you're essentially talking about, can we close a school? Is that fair? So when you look at closing a school, you have to look at what the capacity or how many students are in that school, and then how many other surrounding schools do you need to have that would need to be rezoned in order to accommodate that. So we're looking at that, and that's the BUC, the Building Utilization Committee looks at it every year. We have one area that we've been monitoring over the years that is over, and that's a priority for us, and that is going to be a substantial discussion as part of the BUC. And then we fully expect that there's going to be discussions related to those that are under capacity, and are there any opportunities to look at there?
Okay, thank you.
Did
Yeah,
that
I just wanna
appropriately
make
address what
sure-
your concern
Yeah, I
was?
want to make sure that that's under consideration, because I'm not even looking at peak enrollment. I'm looking at 2010. And I don't believe since 2010 we've had any reductions in the number of facilities that we have. other than the Alaskan Road, which wasn't being used as a school at the time. So,
There's a relationship with portable facilities, and
Yeah.
that's a story that we've talked about here, but I don't think we've shared it as well as, and when I say that we haven't shared it well, it means that we haven't fully ingrained it so that everybody is aligned with what the conditions related to the portable reductions really meant over time.
right, and I'm looking at current numbers compared to in 2010.
Understand.
So, yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that there's serious discussions happening regarding the consolidation topic. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and there's gonna be some serious discussion at the BUC, so, Ms. Owens?
I'll go ahead and yield. I had questions about BUC and discussions there, but I think we're good.
Ms. Anderson?
So I just want to point out, you mentioned the year 2009, and I want people to understand what happened to our stream of money that was coming from the state before that year. We had a stream of money called the lottery system. And so when the state tells you, and when our legislators tell you that every bit of the lottery goes toward education, they're not lying to you. But here's what happened in 2008. If you remember, we had a giant recession. And so our General Assembly, in way of saving money, decided we're going to take the lottery money, which used to come directly to our school systems for school replacements, that type of thing. It went right into our CIP. In 2008, they changed that. That money now goes directly into the general fund for education. But they took that amount of money, let's just say it was $100 million. Okay, I don't know exactly how much it was for the lottery. They took that, now that money goes directly into education, but they take that amount of money out and they use it for other general fund. That's not, so we basically lost all the money that the state used to give us directly for building. We lost it in 2009. And so you talked about 2009. I just want the public to know that's exactly what happened and why we're hurting so much now for having money to be able to build schools. Let's be frank about it. If you want to talk to your legislators, that's what needs to change it. We need to change it back so that the lottery money goes directly to schools like it used to in 2008, directly to schools for building. Because Virginia Beach is not the only school system across the state that's hurting for money to build schools. Some other parts of the state are hurting even more than us. So, yes, we're behind, but that's what happened. And I just want to make it clear to everybody here when you're talking to your legislators, this is what we need to do. We need to press them on that. And that's something that I wish our legislative team would really press legislators on when we have a chance to talk to them. So thank you.
Ms. Brown?
Okay, so on slide number 5, it talks about the new construction projects and the appropriations. And I was just curious if these numbers are for Princess Anne High School, Betty F. Williams, Bayside 6, fully funded. Are those including future appropriations?
Yes, so the way the CIP works, it gets approved for the fiscal year, so we're currently in our fiscal year 23-24. We receive those appropriations in July 1, and then there's also 5 years in addition to that first fiscal year that we're currently in, which makes up the 6-year CIP planning.
So that is the full 6-year,
Yes.
okay. And you said we have 11 million square feet of buildings, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, and look, I understand the JLARC report, I understand the legislation, I understand the challenges with the lotteries. But I do think that, like Ms. Manning mentioned, we do need to exhaust, making sure that we're evaluating our options. And I know that it was just mentioned that there's more to that discussion, but I really wish that we could exhaust this important discussion, maybe at a formal meeting so that there isn't a time crunch when we have these very, very important questions. But I looked at the comprehensive financial report for 2013. I just figured that was a decade ago, so I went with the decade. And I get what you're saying about portables and, enrollment, but I did see between 2013 and what I believe to be today's enrollment that we're down about 3,200 students. In 2013, we did have 55 elementary schools, 13 middle, 11 high schools. In 2022, we have 55 elementary, 14 middle, 11 high schools. And I just think that as a division, we need to make sure that we're doing the best we can with what we have right now. Right, our funding's flat. The ship is sinking. We're taking too much water on board, and I think looking at and evaluating whether or not there's any opportunities to consolidate might be valuable, because you could use some of that property to fund some of the other buildings, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, I just think that we need to make sure we're doing our part. I'm sure you guys know, I think the schools we're building are too big. You've heard it a lot, but I don't think that I personally want to go talk to a legislator and say, hey, you know what? I really need more money, but I think these buildings are too large. So it makes it very hard for me with a personal relationship with certain legislators to be able to come advocate for that when I don't really feel like we're doing our part, and it doesn't really need a response. It's just a thing. But I would like to have more opportunity to converse about this, hear about the declining enrollment and the portables, as you mentioned, so that I could have a full picture.
As we will. We will be discussing this at the BUC, so please, let's keep these questions. They're having their meeting on the 8th. They're gonna give us a full report, and this is the time, that's the time that we will be discussing enrollment and the declining, population of our students, so, okay? I just wanted to add to what Mrs. Anderson said. This is the review from the Virginia Lottery that we got at the conference this 2 weeks ago. Virginia Beach got $34,892,218 from the Virginia Lottery. Now, think about that. That was in place. That it was replaced for the funding for Virginia from the General Assembly. That's the kind of money we used to get, was what Bev was trying to say, in our CIP. So that's why we're seeing such a negative effect on just our daily maintenance of our schools. So, and that's really important, and I think you did a fantastic job of pointing out just the daily maintenance, the HVAC and the roofs. But I do want y'all to know that that's been a fight with General Assembly since they started doing that. So, 2008. Okay, just wanted to say that. So, Ms. Franklin?
Just a quick question. Who is our BUC rep? Oh, I'm just curious then, if when you have that committee meeting, I just want to understand, if we have such a decline in student enrollment, I just want to find out, why are our classroom sizes still above 20 plus students then? So I'm just curious, if we could just address that in the meeting? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And to be clear, there's 3 school board members that are on the BUC.
Yeah, there's
It's
3.
a substantial committee.
I don't think we did address that at BUC.
They'll look at all of it. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know this is such an important thing, guys. I understand the time constraints. So we're gonna welcome, Early Childhood Program Update. Welcome Dr. Ronnie Myers-Daub, our Executive Director of Office of Programs for Exceptional Children, and Ms. Laura Silverman, our Director of Title I Programs. Welcome, ladies.
Hello, good afternoon, Chairwoman Riggs, Vice Chair Weems, school board members, and Dr. Robertson. My name is Ronnie Myers-Dobb. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Programs for Exceptional Children, and I'm here today with Laura Silverman, Title I Director, and we are going to share a high-level overview of early childhood programs in Virginia Beach City Public Schools and answer any questions you may have regarding how we serve our youngest Virginia Beach students. So first, I want to start off by just highlighting this slide, which shows a close-up of Goal 1, Strategy 1 of our school division's Compass to 2025 strategic framework. As you can see, our division has committed to pursuing opportunities to expand early childhood education offerings. Both our OPEC and Title I teams have shown a great commitment to providing a meaningful experiences for the youngest learners we serve. So under Part C of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, some of our youngest learners with disabilities begin receiving services as infants and toddlers through the Infant and Toddler Connection of Virginia Early Intervention System. Children may receive such services up to the age of 3. Prior to turning 3, but as early as age 2, staff from the Infant, Toddler, and Connection provide notification to the school division of children potentially eligible under IDEA Part B. The school division then must complete the eligibility process and have an IEP in place prior to the 3rd birthday or start of the school year. The transition from Part C to Part B is one of the indicators, Indicator 12, that is reported on for the school division as part of the Special Education Performance Report each year. The majority of other referrals received by the Preschool Assessment Center are initiated by parents and caregivers. Once a referral is received, a multidisciplinary team reviews the referral information to determine the suspicion of a disability. As part of the eligibility process, most assessments are conducted through an arena assessment process where one team member interacts with a child and family while other team members observe. Some students attend the diagnostic classrooms at FACE for a few hours each day for 2 weeks, which allows the team to gather authentic assessment data in a classroom setting. This assessment process provides data which is more sensitive to social, emotional, and behavioral delays. It is a process not used in all school divisions, but VBCPS has used it for more than 25 years. The data in this graph represents all referrals that came through the Preschool Assessment Center over the last 3 years. As you can see by the orange bars, the number of referrals have increased about 10% each year. For students found eligible for special education services, which are the blue bars, there was a 14% increase from school year 2021 to 21-22, and a slight increase of 3% from school year 21-22 to 22 to 23. Children with disabilities ages 2 to 5 receive special education services in various environments. Preschool environments is one of the indicators, Indicator 6, that is reported on for the school division as part of the Special Education Performance Report each year. Part A of this indicator identifies the percentage of children who are attending a regular early childhood program and receive the majority of special education-related services in a regular early childhood program. It defines a regular early childhood program as one where at least 50% of the children are typically developing. VBCPS has the opportunity for growth in Indicator 6, as the percentage of children with disabilities who are attending a regular early childhood program and receiving the majority of their special education and related services in this program is below the state target. It is important for the division to continue to explore how we can use different funding streams to meet the needs of all of our children. Particularly, how can we hold a number of slots in a pre-K classroom for consideration of students found eligible for special education services throughout the year, as well as transfer students who do not require a special education setting. The data in this graph represents the number of children with disabilities who receive special education services in the ECSC special education setting. The blue bar on the end shows that as of September 30th, the division is already serving 453 students in this setting. Interesting, I did look at the numbers on November 14th, and we were at 524. So we are already above, where we were in June of 2021 at the end of the school year. The number of children served in this environment will continue to grow as the number of children found eligible for special education services increases throughout the school year. So now I will ask my colleague Laura Silverman to share more information about our pre-K program.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Laura Silverman. I'm the Director of Title I Programs, and I'm pleased to share about our pre-K programs here in VBCPS. Earlier in the presentation, we referenced Goal 1, Strategy 1 of Compass to 2025. This strategy notes that our school division is committed to pursuing opportunities to expand early childhood offerings. The table on this slide shows a historical progression of how we have increased the number of students whom we serve since the start of our pre-K program. We are proud to share that since the 2016-2017 school year, we have increased our pre-K program by over 230 student slots. Currently, we have 936 students enrolled in our pre-K program across 52 classrooms and in 27 of our elementary schools. Each school year, we partner with the Department of School Leadership, the Department of School Division Services, and the Department of Budget and Finance to continue to work to add an additional classroom. Virginia Beach City Public Schools uses braided funding to support the implementation of our pre-K program. Braided funding refers to using multiple funding sources to support the implementation of one program. The first funding source is the Virginia Preschool Initiative, also known as the VPI grant. The VPI grant distributes state funds to school organizations to provide high-quality preschool programs for our 4-year-olds. The second funding source is the local budget from VBCPS. For each VPI student slot, both the state and the local educational agency are responsible for a portion of funding. The third funding source for our pre-K program is the Title I grant. Examples of ways in which we use these funds include, but are not limited to, the payment for classroom supplies, field trips, summer learning, support staff, professional learning, and family engagement supplies. Virginia Beach City Public Schools proudly offers a pre-K program to children with the greatest need as identified by factors determined by the Virginia Department of Education. Pre-K is a full-day program that follows the VBCPS school calendar and school hours. The program serves Virginia Beach children who are 4 years old on or before September 30 of the school year for which they are attending. Our pre-K team offers an application process for Virginia Beach families that's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Each February, we open our pre-K application and it remains open until June. At that time period, we continue to accept applications for consideration for our wait list over the summer months. In phase 1 of the application process, families are invited to complete an online application linked on our school division website. If a family does not have access to a device or the internet, they may contact our office by phone, and our staff will support families in completing the application. If a student is eligible for the program, they are invited to sign up for a virtual meeting to verify specific documentation for the program. If a family is not able to participate in this meeting virtually, they are provided the opportunity to contact our office, and we meet with them face-to-face to complete this phase of the process. Once phase 2 is complete, all information is reviewed by our pre-K office. By July, all families receive communication regarding placement in a pre-K classroom or on the wait list. For families of students who have been assigned to a classroom, additional information is provided so the family is aware of the next steps to complete registration at their assigned school. Now, allow me to share a brief overview of the instructional focus and assessments used in our pre-K program. Virginia has a unified set of comprehensive standards for children's ages birth to 5 years old, which are called the Early Learning and Development Standards, or ELDS. These standards articulate the skills and knowledge that young children should learn and be able to demonstrate so that they are prepared for kindergarten. The standards address appropriate approaches to play and learning, social and emotional development, communication, language and literacy development, health and physical development, and cognitive development in areas such as science, social sciences, mathematics, and fine arts. We use the VDOE-approved Stream in 3 curriculum to facilitate the teaching and learning of these standards. In order to assess our students' learning, pre-K students participate in the Virginia Kindergarten Readiness Program, also known as VKRP. This assessment is given twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring. There are 3 components of the assessment. The first is the Virginia Language and Literacy Screener, also known as VALS. The second part of the assessment is the Early Mathematics Assessment System, or EMAS. And the third portion of the assessment is the Child Behavior Rating Scale, or CBRS. In addition to monitoring student performance, we also measure teacher-student interactions by using Classroom Assessment Scoring System, known as CLASS. CLASS is an observation and professional development tool used to improve the quality of teacher-student interactions in our early childhood classrooms. The 3 domains that are the areas of focus are emotional support, classroom organization, and instructional support. VDOE requires early childhood programs to conduct 2 classroom observations each year. Both our pre-K and ECSE programs conduct class observations, trained internal observers, visit classrooms, score interactions using the class tool, and facilitate feedback sessions with teachers and teacher assistants to honor their strengths, develop goals for growth, and design personalized plans of support. In addition, the information gained from using CLASS helps to inform future supports and professional learning for teachers, teacher assistants, and school administrators. The information on this slide shows class data for the 2022-2023 school year. The first column identifies the 3 domains that class measures. The second column shows the benchmarks for each class domain as set by VDOE. The third and fourth columns show the average class scores for each of our early childhood programs during the 22-23 school year. And the final column shows Virginia's average state scores. As you can see, both our pre-K and ECSE programs exceeded the VDOE benchmarks in all 3 areas. In addition, both of our programs' scores exceeded the average scores for the state of Virginia. Our central office team is committed to ensuring our early childhood staff are offered a variety of professional development opportunities throughout each school year. This past summer of 2023, the DTAL conference offered early childhood learning sessions, and we provided summer essential trainings. Early childhood administrators are offered professional development for best practices in early childhood and sessions to build their capacity in class, instructional look-fors, special education guidance, and other pertinent topics for school leaders. During the fall and spring semesters, pre-K teachers and teacher assistants receive a full day of in-person training, as well as monthly optional check-ins via Zoom with our pre-K staff. Finally, each of our pre-K teachers are assigned to a pre-K resource teacher who serves as a coach to them. These opportunities help to ensure that early childhood administrators, teachers, and teacher assistants are knowledgeable of best practices for early childhood education, as well as supported and empowered. Our school division works to engage and empower families and promote access to information that supports the success of our students. Several times throughout the school year, families are invited to join family focus events. Our pre-K team partners with community organizations to share information and resources to our pre-K families. Some examples of topics we've focused on in the past include healthy families, where we've partnered with organizations such as the Department of Public Health and CHKD, and launching into literacy, where we've partnered with Grow Smart and Virginia Beach Public Library. Another opportunity we offer our families are discovery nights. Both our families and pre-K students are invited to participate in virtual sessions where they learn about different skills being taught in our classrooms and are provided time to bring the learning into the home by practicing the activities during the family event. Each family receives all of the instructional materials needed to participate both during the event as well as to continue the learning at a later time. Materials such as books, math manipulatives, and descriptions of activities are some of the examples of what might be provided. Another family engagement event that we're very proud to implement each year is our Classroom in Action event. This is a time where families are invited into our pre-K classrooms to experience a day in the life of a pre-K student. And it's a good one. When a family attends a Classroom in Action event, they're provided a mini workshop at first that focuses on how families can support academic learning in the home environment. And then families join their child for a portion of instruction in the pre-K classroom. Another family engagement event or opportunity that our office supervises and offers to Virginia Beach families is the Reading Bus. The main purpose of the Reading Bus is to promote and model early literacy skills to preschool children and their families. The Reading Bus runs 5 days a week, visiting Virginia Beach City Public School pre-K classes, different community stops, and community events. The instructor reads a story aloud to the children and introduces them to an assortment of age-appropriate activities designed to help engage them in literacy. Each student who visits the bus leaves with a book of their own to add to their home library. We've partnered with the FACE Office, the Virginia Beach Police Department, and the Food Bank of Southeastern Virginia to enhance the Reading Bus community visits and show a collaborative approach to supporting our youngest learners and their families. Earlier in this presentation, we've shared several examples of how we partner with the community to work together to meet the needs of all of our students. Please take a moment to review this list of partnerships that we rely on to continue to enhance our service to our pre-K students and families. Quite a few. And ever growing, if the public's interested. In addition to what we've already shared, it's important to note that our office has developed a VPI steering committee that meets several times throughout the school year. This committee is comprised of pre-K and ECSE central office staff, pre-K administrators, teachers and families, and other BCPS staff. Also, representatives from Grow Smart, United Way, and Head Start participate as valued members of this committee, whose purpose is to work together to offer the best education and supports to our students and families. One of our most beloved family events that we facilitate each year is our pre-K holiday gift event. In partnership with the Nobleman, every pre-K student is invited to an evening where their families participate in holiday activities to include every child receiving a gift. The Noblemen donate all the gifts and volunteer to help make this event occur. Also, the very hard work and dedication of our pre-K central office staff and the many volunteers across VBCPS schools and departments are what make this heartwarming event become a reality. The photos on this slide show the actual smiles and joy that this event brings every year. This event will be taking place again this December, and if you're interested in possibly attending or volunteering, please reach out to me. We understand the importance of providing a meaningful and smooth tradition for our preschool-age children into kindergarten. Every April, VBCPS rolls out a kindergarten registration campaign where the community is provided information about the steps for families to take to register their children for the upcoming school year. To support successful transitions, IEP teams hold meetings to discuss services and supports to address the needs of students with disabilities. Our pre-K program collaborates with Virginia Beach Head Start to coordinate school visits for students who attend Head Start so they may visit their home schools that they will attend for kindergarten. Also, all VBCPS pre-K students receive summer reading packs to build their home libraries and provide access to literature over the summer months. A special summer family newsletter is also provided to our pre-K families to share summer resources, tips, and activities. For the past several years, we have invited pre-K students to attend our summer learning camps at 10 of our Title I schools. Students are provided opportunities to participate in literacy and numeracy activities, while also being able to continue social interactions with school staff and their peers. Additionally, when a family registers their child for kindergarten in one of our Title I schools, they receive a set of books as a welcome and to spread the love of reading with our students and families. While we currently provide many supports to our incoming kindergarten students, we're always exploring how we can grow and enhance our work. Therefore, coming this summer, we plan to offer new opportunities for students who are entering kindergarten in the fall of 2024. In our Title I schools, we'll invite incoming kindergarten students who have not yet participated in an early childhood program to join a summer learning camp. This will allow students an opportunity to be introduced to their school, build relationships with school staff, learn school routines, and have exposure to academic activities. Also, the Department of Teaching and Learning will be working with other departments to offer kindergarten preparation family sessions over the summer months. While we are in the planning phase of this initiative, we can share that we're looking forward to offering both virtual and face-to-face sessions to support families in preparing their children for kindergarten. Thank you for the opportunity for our offices to share information about early childhood programs in VBCPS, and we stand ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, I just have to say, we've come a long way, baby, since we started kindergarten. We have 2 former kindergarten teachers that started when it all began, so we know. So thank you. And now, Ms. Franklin.
Well, thank you. You all know what big fans I am of you all, of your team, and your work and the passion that you have for our students. And I just wanted to make sure I asked a few questions. You had mentioned the phases of the pre-K application process. You said that the registration remains open till June, or the application, I'm sorry. When does it open?
It opens in February every year. We typically will make several different pushes through different ways, either through the emails that go out to all of our families, marquees, and many other ways. It's also on our website every single year, and we always update it. But February of every year is when we open registration.
Okay.
It remains open until June, and then we continue to receive applications over the summer months, but recognizing that there's a wait list.
Okay. And then, what is the best way? I mean, you have some great initiatives that seem to be coming soon. What is the best way for somebody to be following that in the community in terms of, if they've got a pre-K or a future kindergartner? Is it specifically on the VBCPS website, and then where would they go?
On the VBCPS website, under academics, under pre-kindergarten, is the first way that you can always contact us. You can also contact our office to ask questions, but we definitely promote different experiences. We also go through social media avenues, and we also support families by constant communication through different avenues, either printing out paper copies or sending it through teachers personally from either administrators or their actual teacher.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Melnick.
So, at what age can a student have an IEP? Because it shows, okay, so
So Part C, they can stay in Part C until they're 3.
okay,
However, they can start to transition at the age of 2. So it's really up to the parent at that time.
Okay.
We have seen that the infant and toddler connection has started to refer more 2-year-olds to us. So we have
Yeah.
some of the youngest learners in our classes right now.
so we have over 8,000 students that qualify for special education services,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Are those students counted among the, okay, wasn't a separate,
Yeah, our
Figure.
December 1 count last year was 8,606. So we're working on that right now. We'll probably be around that or a little bit higher this
okay.
year.
Thank you.
Ms. Weems?
Yes, the numbers, as you showed, keep increasing. Now, is that a product of referrals or more awareness to the public so parents look into it? Like why is that?
It's probably a combination of both. And if, after COVID, we saw a little bit of a spike in the number that were found eligible, and then it leveled off a little bit. But at least since I've been in this position, we have seen a slow increase in that. And our doctors, encourage parents to start looking into that process early. My daughter's a speech therapist at CHKD. I know they hand out the information all the time to parents just to encourage them to start looking at getting those services in a school setting to help prepare them for kindergarten.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Owens?
Just really quick, could you tell me what the average number of students per classroom is in the early childhood education classes?
Yeah, both.
It's 18 students in each of our pre-K programs. Occasionally, there might go up to 19, or down to 17. And it is an ever-moving target. As students leave us, we're regularly placing to ensure that we keep our full slots filled. But 18 students is our ratio.
Okay, and that's for the special ed pre-K? and
That's
the-
just for pre-K.
That's just for
That's for
pre-K.
our pre-K that's funded through VPI.
Okay, and what about for the special education?
8.
That's what okay. And so I think it's just helpful for us to hear when we are looking at our enrollment overall numbers declining, but the children that we are having in our system, we have a lot more younger, we have a lot more special education, and so how many you're going to have in a classroom is very different than what it may have been in a decade ago when we were looking at those numbers for comparison. Okay, thank you.
One more question. And you might have said this, but I don't know if I caught it. Do these classrooms have teacher assistants, or is it just the teacher? Because I think 18 is a lot for that
It
young age.
would be a lot if it was one for that
That's a
age, but it's
lot.
not. There's a teacher and a TA in every single classroom. We have a 1-to-9 ratio.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Thank you, great report. You guys are doing some fantastic work.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are past our time. We're gonna take this last, no, we have a VSBA legislative, so we're gonna bring that back to, yeah, no, we don't. We're not.
We're bringing
gonna
it back
bring
afterwards.
We're gonna bring it back after our meeting, okay? So, or we can bring it back at the next meeting, but, I don't know. We'll have to look at that too. We'll be planning our agenda tonight anyway, the three of us will be for the next meeting, so we'll look. Okay, so, we are now dismissed. This meeting is over. You can go have a break. We'll see you at 6 o'clock.